everybody, we're here at Proline Archery hosting this weekend the New York State Indoor Championship, and we are here today with no other than Joe McGlyn. Hello, Joe.
Good evening.
How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
It seems like it's been a very long weekend over here.
A typical weekend for state championships. Long days.
How many shooters do you have here today? This weekend?
Over the weekend, we had 176 registered archers.
Which is way more than a typical day here.
It was. This was our best year.
Yes, it was very busy here. I was shooting yesterday. I saw you were shooting today. How did it go?
Today went well. I haven't been shooting a lot lately, but I shot probably a little bit above my current average, so I was pleased with it. It was good, yeah. Today was very good.
What is your best score?
My best score indoor to date is a 592.
And that's for today?
That was not today.
Not today.
No. That was a few years ago when I was training.
When you was training. Do you like the shooting better indoor or outdoor?
Both have their advantages or parts that are exciting to people. I like both. Both have their individual, I don't know how you put it, but things that make you want to do better. You know, indoors there's no wind, outdoors there's wind, outdoors there's distance. So each one has different areas you can focus and you can hone your craft.
Do you have a favorite for you personally, shooting indoor and outdoor?
Probably outdoors. Probably my personal favorite is outdoors, just because of the challenge, the distance, the wind, the weather, all those things take effect on your grouping, how well you're going to do. Indoors, really only dealing with lighting, maybe if you go to different ranges. So there's no wind, there's no distance. The environment is pretty consistent indoors, but outdoors you have a lot of variables.
Well, outdoor is definitely more fun. For me, personally, I like outdoor. Like you said, the distance definitely is intriguing for me. I like to shoot as far as possible. I think you notice every time we went outdoor, I try to put my target all the way to the back and shoot way beyond everybody else, which is a nice challenge.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, we here in New York, outdoor season is very short. Do you wish you were somewhere else to shoot more outdoor?
No. As far as where I'd like to be, I like living in New York. I like the area. This is where I grew up, so I've come to deal with the limitations of the climate. You can only shoot outside for April through October, maybe a little bit longer, depending on what the jet stream is doing and how much cold air we get from Canada and stuff like that. Yes. But it's good to be able to shoot inside, for a period of time, to just work on grouping and not have to deal with certain outdoor conditions. And then when outdoor season comes around, then you can really, we'll say, accelerate your game and start getting outside and shooting the distances.
Okay. You've been shooting for quite a long time. When did you start shooting?
I started shooting probably around 1979. Is what I remember. So somewhere in like 1979, 1978 is when I started shooting.
What age was that?
It's probably around 78, 79. It's 10 or 11 years old.
Okay. And what age did you get to be a pro shooter?
Probably in my mid-20s is when I really started to perform well. I shot well through college and things like that, and did the typical things that college kids do, goof around, go to parties and things like that. I probably took it a lot more serious when I left college and ended up going to Olympic Training Center and trained as a resident athlete, and I went through a lot of those years trying to perfect my craft and make national team, make world teams, and things like that. So probably in the early 20s is when I really started to take it more seriously, and in my late 20s and 30s is when I started to really, I don't say become a threat, but some people go, oh, look, Joe's coming around or whatever. So people noticed my name and things like that, and I was making some world teams, indoor world championships, world field teams, and things like that. So it was fun.
Absolutely. Well, your name is very well known today. Everywhere I go and we travel to competitions, everybody knows who you are and talk about who Joe McGlyn is and how well you've done. I'm going to read this from here because it's way too long to remember, but I was doing a little bit background check, and you won basically national championship,
Yep.
world team championship,
Yep.
silver medalist as world field, several time gold medalist at the New York State indoor and outdoor. How many times do you remember?
I don't count.
You don't count,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of them.
There is, yeah. I mean, in the state, I've won the state championships many times, but I don't keep track of what I've won and things like that to a certain degree.
You did win the Lancaster Classic one time. That was, I
Yep.
believe, in 2001.
Twice.
Twice.
Won it twice.
I won. Okay,
Two-time
let's
champion.
go. Even better. And you got in Vegas to 5th place. I think that was your best achievement in Vegas.
Yeah.
But you got that several times, 5th place.
Yeah, I was in top 10 several times.
Yes, so it's very. There are many more other achievements that I saw, but too many to count over here. Do you have a favorite one?
Probably my two favorites. It's hard to pick a favorite, but my two favorites was when I shot my first 1300 in FIDA competition. So an old FIDA competition was 90, 70, 50, 30 meters, and I find that to be for me like a proud moment, because at the time it was like, oh, you'll never shoot a 1300. If people know me, I have I don't say a unique style, but my styles, my form, or whatever you want to call it, is something that people always look at and wanted to change, and I did not. So it was one of those things when I did shoot that score, which is a score at the time that people would strive to shoot, still today. I did it, so I see that as for myself as a great achievement. And probably my other moment was when I won my silver medal at the World Field Championships, because the field is a different type of shooting. It's a different type of game, dealing with terrain and unknown distances, and I worked really hard to get to that level.
Both are very well respected. In general, archery is considered to be a sport. Some consider it as a fine art, some as a recreational activity or even therapeutic. Where do you stand with all that? What is it for you today?
That's covered everything for me. Today, it's more of currently today, I treat it more as a recreation, as a hobby. I mean, I own a business, I own an archery range business, but the actually pulling back the bow and letting it go for me now is more of a hobby. It's therapeutic. It's a stress reliever. There's nothing more to me relaxing than just getting on the line with my bow and arrow and letting it go and just working on my craft.
Is there an age for archery to start, to retire?
It's limitless. So, I hope to be doing archery until they put me in a box,
Okay.
But there is really, kids start at a very young age, and I know people that are in their 80s, late 80s and 90s that shoot. So it's you can look at it as a hobby, a recreation. Even people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s still have the desire to compete. That's why they have so many different age brackets. 50 to 60, 60 to 70. You know, the super generations will probably have, you know, as we get older and technology keeps us going, there'll probably be an 80 or a 90-year-old age group for archery. Hopefully I'll be pulling my bow back and letting them go.
It will definitely be fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy archery, even though I'm not doing it for a long time. Relatively, I enjoy it, and this is definitely something that I want to do for many years.
Yeah.
You are also a coach. How is that makes you feel coaching people?
I like coaching. I like giving what I've learned over the years to help people, to get them to be better, to get them to shoot to the best of their ability. You know, that's the thing. Everybody has ways to pull better shots out of themselves. You know, whether it's mental or technique. And I like working with people and being able to explain things that I've learned over the years on the mental side of shooting and also on the physical. You know, everybody can pull a bow back and let the string go, but there are subtleties that people just don't pick up looking at a videotape, and you know, the small things that I understand that they don't see, and then I explain it, and then that's where the knowledge transfer comes in. They can start to apply that. And that to me, that's a great thing. You have to pass along knowledge.
Absolutely. Well, knowing you personally, I know you have a day job.
Yep.
You own Proline Archery. You're one of the owners of Proline Archery. You're a pro shooter. You're a coach. How does all this come together? And from my perspective, as someone who has decided to go pro, also having a day job, how does all this come together? Is it possible?
It is. It's definitely possible. There's a lot of sacrifice, you know. So, in order to excel in shooting, to become the best that you can, something's got to give, and usually that is free time, social time. You know, you tell your friends, you know, I can't go to dinner. I got to go practice. You know, I can't go to the movies. I got to go practice. You know, so those are the things that, as a pro shooter or someone looking to go pro, or just for some archers in general, they're just trying to take it to the next level, something's got to give, right? And you know, if you want to shoot better, and you know, it takes hours and hours on the range to be able to get your arrow count up, to be able to focus mentally, to learn how to shoot 1 arrow at a time. So those are the things that, as you have a day job, you'll find yourself thinking about archery all the time, you know. So you have to learn how to do time management so you don't, you know, mess up your day job, which is funding your archery career, right?
Absolutely.
And then you also have to worry about time management on how to fit family time in, social time in, shooting time in, and then training time in. Training for mental imagery, training for strengthening, training for mental management. So all these things go into creating a well-rounded archer. And those are the things that a lot of people struggle with, because, you know, hey, I want to go out and get a beer with my buddies, but you know, you gotta, you know, you can't do both, and you have to pick and choose.
Absolutely.
And that's you know, the choices that life gives us, right?
Yes. Well, taking that, mixing that with something we spoke a little bit earlier, as we live in New York, how does this compare to other states? People practicing over there, obviously they have warmer weather, they have more archery, hardcore states in New York. New York is not a hardcore archery state. How does that compare in terms of practicing or going pro?
I mean, I wouldn't say New York's not a hardcore state. I mean, there are archers in the state, and again, it's finding the time. If you know, if it's something that you want to do, you will find the time. You will make the sacrifices. You know, there are, you know, great archers that live in worse climates than us. You know, we'll just pick for an example. Dave Cousins lives in Maine. You know, luckily, you know, he built an archery range in his basement, and he shoots indoors, but outdoors, he's got to clear a path for snow in the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, to get ready for some of the different tournaments. So you will sacrifice and make do with what you have, depending on the area you live in. You know, people that live in Arizona and Texas, and they have times of the year where their climate for them may not be the best, where it gets too hot. So you can't shoot in the middle of the day. We can, right? But they may have more daylight than us because they're a little bit further south. So they can shoot a little bit further into the evening. They can shoot a little bit longer in the morning. So people will make do with what they have around them.
Yes, you definitely need to adjust and do what you got to do. But different states have different environments, and that brings different schedule of training, different aspects to the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see any advantages of practicing in an urban place like New York City, where we are, compared to suburbs or rural areas?
In the urban area, for us, one of the big differences would be the amount of people that come to the indoor range. So, it's a little bit noisier, it's a little bit harder to get like a quiet time. But on the other hand, the noise and interaction from the people shooting around you can help you build focus, because you need to tune them out, right? When I say tune them out, you can't not hear things, right? Because your ears are always on, but you can choose to focus what you listen to or pay attention to. So if somebody is talking next to you and telling a joke or whatever and things like that, and people are laughing, you can choose to listen to that conversation or not listen to that conversation and focus on archery. So those are the things mentally that shooting in a maybe in an urban area where there's a lot more people in the archery range, because we can't shoot in our backyard. We don't have the amount of outdoor space that somebody in Pennsylvania or maybe Ohio or Kansas, some of the areas where it's just not as densely populated. So maybe their range is a little quieter, or they shoot by themselves, in their yard or their basement or someplace else, and they don't have the busy environment that we do. So maybe, it might help mentally, being able to not focus on and not listen to conversations.
Do you think it is a disadvantage for us not being able to shoot in the backyard or in your basement, while other places they can do that? They can put targets in different ranges and practice. They can get more range time than me, for example, coming here in a certain hours that the range is open. They have a 24/7 range that they can utilize whenever they want. On the other hand, they're by themselves. They might not have the discipline, and they might not have the noise, like I said, that they need to get used to. Do you see the disadvantage of any of those?
It's a personal thing. It's scheduling. There are some archers that are high-level pros that all they do is shoot. They don't have to worry about having a second job. So for those guys, having an open area like that or a range that they can go to whenever they want, at that level might be an advantage. But right now, for us in an urban area, it comes down to time management and scheduling, because in my opinion is that the execution of a shot at 20 yards is the same at 50 meters or 70 meters. Your shot is your shot. And if you have confidence in your shot, you're going to group well, you're going to do well. The only variable is outside is the wind, right? Some weather and things like that. And if you get time to shoot outside and you get an opportunity to begin to train and understand, a lot of it is understanding how you're going to react in the wind, how you will react in the rain, what happens to my hand when it gets wet, what happens when the sun is in my eyes. Those are the things that once you get an understanding, you'll know how to react, you know how to modify something or get a powder bag or rain clothes and things like that. And again, your shot is your shot. 20 yards, 50 meters, 70 meters. It's my belief is that you're going to execute the same. You're going to break your trigger the same way. You're going to let go of the string with your fingertip the same way. You know, your dot and bubble and all that stuff is going to kind of move around very similar fashion, right? And once you get the rhythm down, at 20 yards, 50 meters, 70 meters, you know, it's the same. It's confidence. You know, going out there and saying, I own this, I can do this.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in the belief that I own it, that this is what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing. There's a lot to it. The second you stand on a line and you lose that confidence, the shot's not going to come out. Right?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter the distance.
Yep.
Okay. You've been to endless competitions, nationwide, worldwide. Do you have any favorite competition?
My favorite competitions were probably ones that I traveled to. I really enjoyed when I went to the World Games in Japan. First time I was in Japan and saw many different events. You know, the World Games is a different type of event where they have non-Olympic sports. Even though archery is an Olympic sport, they have non-Olympic sports in there. So you get to see sumo and tug of war and some odd events you'd never think that they were so big international, but they are.
Yes.
So Japan was a great event for the World Games. Some other, you know, all of the World Games I went to were fun. Probably one of my funnest events was probably in Florence, Italy, at the World Indoor Championships. Went to Florence, Italy, and just got to hang out with the team and see the sights in Italy. First time in Italy, so it was, you know, it was fun to go see some ruins and things that were, you know, really old. You know, you don't see things that old in the United States. So seeing things that are 900, 1,000 years old is pretty impressive.